Hello, it's Monday the 5th of November, bonfire night, and in this video I'm looking at the latest Lotto result. I'm going to analyse it and I'm going to show you in what ways the most outstanding numbers were standing out and what made them predictable, and I'm going to make some predictions of my own. So, these are the numbers. Nobody won the jackpot. The machine was Guinevere, set of balls 2. And this is my analysis. Now, the numbers that are purple in the middle columns, they're the ones that were most overdue for the frequency. The blue ones on the right, they're the ones that were most overdue. And there aren't any green ones, so don't worry about that. So if we look at a chart for Guinevere and set of balls 2, since the numbers went up to 59, then you'll see that number 52 was most overdue for its frequency. If we look at a chart for Guinevere and the 4 sets of balls that are in use at the moment, the current trend being sets 1 to 4, then you should see that number 16 is most overdue. When we look at a chart for Guinevere and all sets of balls, we should see 41 most overdue for its frequency and 16 most overdue. And so basically I'm looking at all the coincidences. Now I'll show you all the outstanding numbers that didn't coincide with the numbers that were drawn. So there's quite a lot of them. So out of all these numbers, the only ones that happened to be drawn, out of these numbers, the only ones that happened to be drawn were 52, 16 and 41. And looking at the charts for 16, 41 and 52, none of the other numbers that came out stood out with those numbers. But when we look at the charts for number 45, it turns out that 16 was most overdue for its frequency. So I will be able to show you those charts on this spreadsheet quite easily. So the last draw before the last draw was 2385, and then the next numbers that came out in the next draw were these numbers. And to show you in what ways this stood out, I'm going to narrow it down to, first of all, Guinevere and all the sets of balls, well, all that have been in use since the numbers went up to 59 in draw 2066. And on this chart you can see there's 16 most overdue at the top, there's 41 most overdue for its frequency, and this is where all the other numbers were. So that's the other numbers. These are the two that stood out the most, and they just happened to be drawn in the last draw. So what a coincidence. Now let's look at Guinevere and set of balls 2. So we're only now looking at the draws where that machine and set of balls have been used since the numbers went up to 59. And the only one that actually stands out is main number 52, and that came out in the next draw, in draw 2386. So let me just have a look. Right, we've seen the chart for Guinevere, we've seen Guinevere set balls 2. Now I'll show you this one, which is the chart for Guinevere and the 4 sets of balls that are the current trend. And to see which is the current trend, if you look at the draw history, you can see they've only been using sets 1 to 4 since draw 2366, and I don't know how long that's going to carry on for, but that is the current trend. So looking at the current trend sets of balls and Guinevere together, again 16 most overdue, that's where all the other winning numbers were, and that's where all the numbers are on that chart. So we've seen that one, I already showed you that one. Now let's have a look at the chart for the current trend machines, which is Guinevere and Lancelot. So on the machine side, that's the current trend. So I can narrow it down to just those two machines, and all sets of balls that have been in use since draw 2066. And you can clearly see main number 41 most overdue for its frequency, so it stands out on that chart, and it just happened to be drawn in the next draw. So those are the numbers that stood out. Now if we look at the current trend machines and the current trend set of balls, just the ones that are in use at the moment, and see where the winning numbers are on that chart, that's where they were. Now let's have a look at all machines and sets of balls, or just the ones that have been in use since draw 2066 when the numbers went up to 59. And on this chart we should see what it looks like at the moment. These are the winning numbers. See, 41 was close to the edge of the, well, was the only one on the edge of the chart. And now if we look at a chart for only the draws where number 45 has come out, and you can see that number 16 was most overdue for its frequency to occur with 45, and that's what happened in the next draw after this one. So that's what happened in draw 2386. Now if we look at the all machines and just the current trend sets of balls, which is sets 1 to 4 again, on the chart for only the draws where 45 has been drawn, then again number 16 was most overdue for its frequency to occur with 45. So what a coincidence, it just happened to be the most outstanding number that came out. So if we look at a chart for 16, then you should see number 45, there it is. I'll just zoom in a bit. 45, close to the edge of the chart, and I don't see any of the other numbers close to the edge on that. Chart for 31, are there any winning numbers near the edge or on the edge? Yep, 16 and 41, both on the edge of that chart, but they weren't standing out enough to show up on the analyzer. Now if we look at 47, because we've already seen 45, and see where the winning numbers were on that. Again 16 close to the edge, 52 on the edge as well. Chart for 41 looks like that, and here's the winning numbers. So on that one looks like 31 was on the edge. Chart for 47, that's what that one looks like. And finally chart for 52. So that concludes my analysis of the most recent draw, and now I'm going to give you some predictions. Now I'm predicting, due to its position on this main chart, that number 29 is going to come out. And if we look at a chart for numbers paired with 29, then at first it looks like it's pointing to 37, but it's not. It's pointing to 18, because if we narrow it down to the current trend, now it's 18 that stands out. And if we narrow down the sets of balls to the current trend, it's still 18 that stands out. In fact, it's only 18 that stands out with 29. So those two numbers, I would expect them to come out together. So that's a good two number up pick. And I can show you what that looks like on the analyzer. So we don't need that and that. We don't need these. We don't need the coincidence filter. So you can see 29 stands out. Stands out when we're looking at the current trend, and so that were a typo. Right, here we go. These are the numbers that stand out with 29. You see, 18 stands out. Let's have a look at some of the other numbers. So those are the numbers that stand out with 4. 54. That occurs 3 times on there, so these are the numbers that stand out with 54. And what other numbers have we got? I've got 35, and we've got 58. So these are the ones that stand out, and these are the numbers that are best to pick with those outstanding numbers. And if we look at 18, it points back to 29. So if I turn the coincidence filter on, you can see how those two point to each other. So that's a good two number up pick. So that just about concludes this video. I hope that it helps you to predict or to pick your numbers and hopefully pick the winning ones. I'll leave you with a chart for the current trend, which is Guinevere and Lancelot sets 1 to 4. So that's what that chart looks like now that the most recent draw has occurred and these numbers have dropped down to the bottom. So the outstanding numbers are 4, 29 and 54 on that chart. So bye for now.